every week so far during this year's cohort. We've had, I guess we're averaging about 25 to 30 other CEOs that call in and join us remotely. So we're happy that we're able to share this. Normally wouldn't be able to do that if it was all in person. Last week, I think we had folks from 5 or 6 different countries. Now, why that happened, I don't know, but we've got a few here planning to join in today. I'll just sort of say a few words to everyone about how we're planning to do it today. And as Patrick and Muhammad show up, we'll just kind of cue them up. Muhammad was due up second anyway, so and then Patrick was fourth. I've already selected the order of all of the presenters. Angel will be going first, and then Muhammad with Full Blast Steam, Nika with Fight Blight Baltimore, Patrick with Superior, and Nancy with the Sankofa Community Network. Angel with the Black Brain Trust is first, and Margaret is here. She'll be joining us shortly, so at least all 4 of our judges are, well, I shouldn't say judges, but guests are here. Hey, Margaret.
Hi, I forgot my password, so I was trapped out of the group. So now I'm in. I've reset it.
You're in. There you go. Cool. Good to see you. Good to see you. Just a couple other little small housekeeping matters I'll just share with the group. On the schedule, we had John Lewis, who is going to also be with us today. John, as the newly minted, I should say the summer minted president of Harbor Bank. John can't be here today. He would like to. I think he will show up for the. He will. I think he will be able to show up for the closing ceremony. Anyways, Harbor Bank was selected as one of the 3 banks that are, with Google. They're relaunching the virtual banking platform Plex, and so Harbor Bank was selected. And I think the only one sort of east of the West Coast. Anyways, he's been really busy on that, and the announcement I think was just made a day or 2 ago. You might be able to find about it on a search. Anyways, so John won't be here today, but sends his regards, and hopefully we'll be able to have the cohort get a chance to show what they got in front of him on the closing ceremony. One other thing, as I mentioned, we have screens for 9 people, and so Rob, I'm going to drop you off if when Muhammad and or Patrick show up, so that we'll be able to keep the cohort CEOs on the screen. Rob, and that. So I'm going to go ahead and drop you now. Folks, I wanted to just start the conversation today to the cohort and to our guests to sort of set the tone. The people who are here, Claire Brodio Johnson, Stan Smith, Ronnie Gist, and Margaret Roth, are part of the family. Literally, I feel like this group of folks are part of this larger sort of ETC startup community family. They're here to help us improve our approach, give us guidance, thoughts on how we might be able to say something better or focus on something more, and then thoughts on what we might be able to take away after this. To our panelists, I just wanted to mention that we're now in our 11th week, and some of the teams are literally biting each other's heads off. They have been working really, really hard. They have had some really intense internal battles. I've actually been part of 2 teams that have had to moderate fisticuffs, but they actually, it resolved itself well. And I think that's a testament to how hard everybody's been working and the pressure that everyone's been under and the pressure that they've accepted themselves to put themselves under. In my opinion, it is a showing of seriousness of purpose. I've been involved with a few similar kinds of programs and classes in the past. I'm impressed by the seriousness by which this cohort has taken this challenge, and we have given it to them as tough and brutal and packed as possible. And so in the planning of this, when we first set up this particular panel, when Neil Davis and I, the curriculum, it made sense to really talk about follow-up funding, follow-up to the Accelerate Baltimore. We still want that to occur. So I don't want to lose the focus of what the initial setting of this session was about. That is like, what are some of the things that are available afterwards? But for the panelists, just understand that we have not shied away from this subject. We talk about it almost every single week, right? And we prepare for it in so many different ways. This cohort has been focused on really drilling down on the revenue models, very, very engaged with customer discovery, having gone through the I-Core program. At this stage, really, for the last week or two, really trying to understand what a pitch is like and how to do it and how is it effective. And so we have pitch practice every Thursday evening. And the last two sessions have been really good. We've had a lot of growth. We've got Henry Mortimer and Mustafa, Waheed's as the other two pitch coaches. And so, we've really been working on this. And so I wanted to just see if we could have a different kind of session today, a session that we would, hear what these entrepreneurs have been working on and what they have to say and what they're trying to help. Remember, this year's Accelerate Baltimore was unique to the past. That is, it was there to try to address one of 5 civic challenges to our city in Baltimore, and it might have a relationship to the world thereafter. And so it's not quite the same approach. And so, what I want to try to do is to give every one of our CEOs a chance to tell their story, and then give you, the panelists, our investor friends, our family, an opportunity to tell your story, talk about what your fund or your approach or programs are about and how they may or may not be applicable, and some thoughts, whatever. It's a free and open discussion. I want the CEOs to ask questions of you, and I want you to ask questions of them. It might go a little bit longer, but I just wanted to have this kind of interactive session. We've had enough seminars and panels and discussions about other things. And so with that, we're going to begin with Angel St. Jean, the CEO of the Black Brain Trust. And Angel, you have the stage to do your pitch first. And then from that, you have Stan and Ron and Claire and Margaret and I and others that may have questions, and you may have questions as well. So why don't we just kind of go from there, unless there are any other questions that people may have before we get started? We're good? Excellent. So Angel, the floor is yours. If you'd like to present a deck, please feel free. If you want to just go freestyle, you can do that as well.
All right, I'm going to share my deck here.
I've said that they get about 5 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. Try to keep it to that time frame for each one of the presentations. There we go. Excellent. Okay.
Okay. So I don't know about you, but I love looking at pictures of little kids. Their innocence, their curiosity, their lack of a filter is very refreshing to me. I like to look at them and think, who will these little people be when they grow up? Let's play a little game and see if we can figure out with this group here. So play along with me. Take a look at them one more time and then close your eyes. Based on everything that you know about life in America, which group of kids do you think are more likely to live in a good neighborhood? Which group do you think is more likely to go to a good school, to graduate from a good college, to become the CEO of a Fortune 500 company? We don't have to say the answers out loud, but we all know what it is. I'm trying to advance my slides. Good morning. I'm Angel St. Jean. I'm the CEO of the Black Brain Trust. We are a duo of Black people committed to changing that narrative and changing the world. Rob, who you saw a second ago, is the brains behind the technology driving the solution that we've created to this problem. He's a husband, a father of two, and an enterprise architect who's been trying to figure out how he can use his technology skills to make a difference for Black people. I'm a wife, a mother of four, and an applied researcher who's been spending my academic and professional career understanding the root causes of Black poverty and trying to figure out how to address the lack of access to opportunity for Black people. In my research, I've come to really understand how companies could spend $8 billion a year on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and still pay out huge sums in settlements for racial discrimination. Companies track KPIs for every goal that matters to their bottom line, except for equity, despite these huge investments. And I can understand why. I've spent my career studying this. That's not what they've done. But it's that career that I've spent working together with Rob that allowed us to create this score called the Equity in Action Score. The Equity in Action Score is doing something that hasn't been done before in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. It's creating a clear standard and a bar for companies to reach. Our tool provides companies with a score and a report that breaks down the key areas that they need to improve, that they need to work on to improve their score, and a technology platform that they can use to track those KPIs over time so that they can improve their score directly. There are two things that really set us apart from other similar products on the market. The first one is that we're focused on equity. Diversity and inclusion is important and necessary for equity, but they don't guarantee equity. We also provide this tool that I mentioned that companies can use to track their performance. Our company is really created to work with leaders who are serious about equity, who want to dig deep and really interrogate their company practices and get to the root causes of the inequities in their companies. It's based on over 150 metrics and a survey of Black consumers and workers in their companies. Diversity officers, human resource leaders, and risk management officers are all trying to figure out why their efforts have not been moving the needle. We're going to target them and board members who are concerned about companies being sued as our initial customers and our initial buyers. Our strategy is going to be using beta tests and sort of workshopping those around with industry associations and trade groups and standard setting bodies who are working with groups of our target customers. Our score is industry specific. And so for the first one, we're going to focus on financial institutions. Specifically, we're going to look at financial institutions in the 10 cities that have the largest Black populations. And we're going to target banks, and there are 117 in those markets that we're going to focus on first. Based on our revenue model, if we're able to get just 36 of those banks to purchase our tool over the next 3 years, we'll be in the green, in the Black, sorry. Over the next year, we believe we have a huge opportunity that we can take advantage of. And our goal is to build scores for 6 industries and target those industries that are the biggest so that we can get a huge share of the market before our competitors catch up with us. We believe that if we can get a small team in place, get some technology and patent our score, that'll enable us to achieve our goal by the end of December of 2021. This industry has really picked up steam since George Floyd's death. We want to be clear that the fire to change this dynamic has been with us from the beginning. These are my kids, Luke, Zora, and Serena, and these are Rob's daughters. We want to change the world so that these kids' lives outcomes are not going to be determined by their race. We believe that the more equitable companies we have, the more equitable our society is. And we're inviting companies and investors to work with us and challenge the norms around inequities in companies. Thank you.
Okay, so that was 7.5, close to 8 minutes. Just to let you know that you would not have been able to continue going. For the future, you got to be mindful of your time, but that's another story. Anyways, if you could your deck, and then we can see the faces and any comments or questions. Let's start with you, Claire.
Super relevant topic, something that a lot of us are thinking about. I would suggest, so I'm an environmental scientist by background. One of the things that was really game changing in the environmental space is an ENERGY STAR rating. So, if you get a dishwasher or washing machine right now, it actually has an ENERGY STAR rating. 25, 30 years ago, that didn't exist. One thing to look at is starting to give companies ratings like that ENERGY STAR rating, use it as an example. I'm happy to follow up with you afterwards, but it was actually completely changed the entire industry. I know that's a kind of a weird parallel, but it just, nobody was thinking at the time about how efficient our appliances are. And so just putting a rating on it changed the way that people think about using energy. I'm not saying that there's a direct correlation, but I think that now is a really excellent time. I guess the thing that I would question is, how are you going to get this tool to market, right? It seems like a tool that people from, say the head of HR at T. Rowe Price or McCormick or Under Armour needs to use, but is there something that's actually ready for them to implement right now?
We're still building our MVP, but we intend to have that finished by next month. And our goal is to work with some of the trade associations and industry groups to help sort of make those introductions. We're also focused on identifying some beta testers. Some of what we learned is that once we get that first customer with a name that everybody recognizes, really going to inspire other people to sort of take that leap. And so we have a couple of leads already on companies who've expressed interest in being beta testers. And so we intend to use that and engage those trade associations to share the results.
Cool. No, it sounds fantastic. Thanks.
I want to double down on Claire's.
You're on mute.
I'm on mute. No.
Here.
There you are.
Oh, now you can hear me?
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
I want to double back on Claire's point too. The first thing I thought of because I was sort of like, how did we pick financial institutions as the first market and interested in that? But it's sort of, could you use the Glassdoor model, which is to have employees, essentially target employees to anonymously give the ranking, so that then you can go to a business and say, hey, here's what's the information that your employees are anonymously saying, and then sort of like that's essentially flipping the model. So you're collecting the data first and then being able to go to an employer or a potential customer and say, here's the data I already have on you. What if you were involved in this narrative? So that's sort of another, how do we look at markets that way too? And your opening was incredibly powerful, and that was an excellent way to get people emotionally involved without asking them a question.
Mm-hmm. I think the Glassdoor, that's a great example, though. I mean, there's something we're thinking about, Angel. You're familiar with it, right?
I am. And there are a couple of different tools out there that do similar things. There's one called Blind and another one called Lindor, I think. But we initially looked at creating the score based off of externally available data. And there is some externally available data that's out there. In our conversations, though, it seems like this is an issue that a lot of companies are trying to address right now. And they're really looking for something that will allow them to not only identify where they are, but to see a path to improve over time. And so it seems like this kind of tool, the platform that we're creating along with the score, is something that companies really want to have. And so we think that there's an opportunity to kind of go at it from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Excited to see because it's definitely like a two-sided marketing opportunity there. So that's good to go out from both directions, for sure. Great job.
Stanley, so could you tell us a little bit about Dingman Angels, and then perhaps how startups like Angels Company or others might get involved?
Sure. So John, thank you for inviting me. I'll tell you a little bit about the Angels and who I am, and then more about how this is relevant for this conversation. So Dingman Center Angels is an angel network. We've been around since 2005. We've done 135 transactions over the last 15 or so years, and we deployed about $18 million in capital. We are growth seed investors. So typically we bring companies to the group that have products in market and that have evidence of product market fit. So generally we don't bring in companies that are pre-revenue or pre-commercialization. There are instances in which we do that, and typically those are companies that have some sort of attachment to the University of Maryland. So Dingman Center Angels is related to the University of Maryland at College Park. And we look at all sectors. So we're sector agnostic, but generally the companies that do well with our group are companies that have some sort of novel technology advantage. So again, we look at consumer products, but we look at all the type of tech companies that you would think about: fintech, edtech, cyber, SaaS, et cetera, et cetera. We typically look at companies that are looking to raise between 100,000 and $1 million. Our check sizes range from 25 up to $500,000, but the average check size is between 150 and 175, and that's 3 or 4 members of our group writing checks for $25 to $50,000. Since I've been there, I've seen some fairly large checks, one for 350 and one for 500. We meet 7 times a year, so we follow the University of Maryland's academic calendar. We start in September, and then we go through June. And typically in this post-COVID world, we have everything virtually, and we do 3 companies every session. And the general process is you reach out to me or one of the team, and then we evaluate you, and then we do some preliminary diligence. And if we think you're a fit, we invite you to come pitch us. And our pitch is really simple. It's 10 minutes of pitch, 10 minutes of Q&A, and then afterward, I connect angels to the entrepreneur. Prior to DCA, I spent 15 years as a VC. I worked for a venture capital firm in DC called Syncom Venture Partners, which at the time was the largest venture firm owned by African Americans that invest in companies led by African Americans and Latino Americans. In terms of relevance here, you know, we've served the Mid-Atlantic, and we have a special affection for the DMV. And so companies that are kind of meet our criteria would love to talk to them and love to meet with them. And then just as an advocate for the area, you know, if you're too early on a personal level, I spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs that may be not fit for DCA at the moment, but my goal is, especially for people of color in the DMV area, is to give them tools to prepare them so at one point they can come pitch. They could pitch DCA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Any thoughts you'd like to add, Ronnie? And we'll go to Nika after you speak. And I'm trying to see where Mohammed is, and I'm sure he's not like running away because of this. But I did talk to both of them this morning. They seem to be having some technical issues. Ronnie, thanks for joining us. Could you tell us a little bit about the Maryland Industrial Partnerships? And you know, I know that there's a certain level of requirements involved in order to sort of be eligible for this, but we really do appreciate your thoughts here and what might be a good advice as well for Angel going forward.
Sure, happy to. Can everybody hear me? Great.
Yep.
Really appreciate being invited, and go back a long way with speaking of Neil Davis, earliest days, his days at ETC. So we've helped fund a number of ETC companies over the years. So the Maryland Industrial Partnerships, often called MIPS for short, is a state-funded grant program. It is a grant program, not loans, not convertible debt, not equity sharing, grants for economic development for the state. And the way that we do that is we help technology-based companies with partnering them with faculty researchers at the University of Maryland on any project they need done, any technology, any science, anything that will help the company move forward and accelerate their development, add jobs, right? Grow revenue and add jobs. That's the criteria. You need to be a Maryland company, and you need to have a project in mind that a faculty researcher, professor is interested in working on with you. And that's it. There's really no other qualifications. We don't fund typically early stage research because it's got to show, you have to show in your proposal to us that it is ready for prime time. You're ready or very close to ready to commercialize it, right? So you've got a working prototype. You've got an initial set of beta code, maybe Angel in your case, right? I don't know how far along your actual development is. And if you do, whatever you need done with that, it can be further testing of that package, of that product. It can be third-party verification of it. It can be cleaning up the code. It can be anything that you can show, hey, we need this done. The company needs this done, and this will help us in this way. And we have 2 rounds per year of proposal deadlines, every May, every October. every single year. So whatever the timing is right for you. The turnaround for that is roughly 60 days. So for instance, if you apply in May, your project would start in August. If you apply in October, your project would start 1st of February. And that's the idea. The amount, everybody always likes to know how much the funding is. We have $100,000 projects, budgets per project per year for up to 2 years. So for a given company like Angel, your company, could do either a 1-year project for $100K or a 2-year project for $200K. You might say, well, why in the world wouldn't we always do the 2-year, right? The reason for that is sometimes it's an advantage to only ask for 1 year. So if you only have a project you can get done in a year for about $100K, it's a slight advantage to you to just apply for the 1 year. Of that $100K budget, the company pays 10% and MIPS pays 90%. And that the idea is you really have skin in the game, right? You're not just looking for grant funding to pay your employees to do another round of grant funding, right? There's a lot of folks around that do that. The Beltway Bandits, they're called often, yeah. Right? So that's the real quick overview, John. If you any more details.
No, thank you. Do you select? Does the entrepreneur find their own professor? Or how does that sort of
Great
match
question.
up process
Glad you
happen?
asked it. It's about half and half. We help always. If you have no clue who to work with, you don't know where to go, we absolutely help, and we do that all the time. The matchmaking part of it. We have a whole system for that called a statement of interest. You start out with on our website, and then we go from there. I should also mention that we work with every public university in the state. So it's not just College Park. College Park is the big dog with the most researchers, but we do projects with Frostburg, Towson, Salisbury, UMES. It's all about where's the right faculty researcher, right? Where's that right expertise and interest? And we always can find you one or more candidates. And another key answer to that, John, is that you have to make that introduction, and that partnership starts. The P and MIPS is the partnership before you propose to MIPS. You can't propose just as an independent company and then we find you. You're going to meet that professor, work with them on a budget and a project, and propose. Both are proposing to MIPS together.
Excellent. That could be something, Angel, that you want to really think about in terms of just kind of adding to your research, especially with the other industries that you're trying to move into and things of that nature. It could be a real useful avenue to take. I might want to consider that. Nika, you're up next.
If I can interrupt, I had a couple of little little tips for Angel. Thoughts I had.
Please.
Angel, first of all, I agree. Your hook, I think it was Margaret that said your hook at the beginning was fantastic. I did not even key in on at all on the two different groups of kids being black and white until you said, oh, which one's going to have the advantages? That is a great intro. Really enjoyed that. I would say to you, unless there's a reason here that you don't do it, you absolutely want to mention the name of your company and the name of the product early, right away. Every slide should have it in the border. Not obnoxious, right? Just small. But you don't want, I'm sitting there the whole time going, Jane, what's the name of her company? I'm thinking that myself the whole time, right? I'm actually looking back at my email saying, oh, the list of companies here somewhere. So you want that to be in somebody's mind. If their interest is piqued, you want them to remember you that way. I think it's important. And I found myself wondering, it sounds very interesting. It sounds like something a lot of companies would be interested in, but what can you say? I would say something in your presentation needs to say, at least quickly, what's the end product, right? You're going to do this great analysis for these companies, but what is it they take away and utilize when they're done or they're in the midst of using your product? Those are my main comments.
Yeah. And that should have been there. I was very nervous presenting in front of everybody, but I'll be rehearsing between now and the next round. So hopefully you guys will come back to the last one and you can hear the more polished version.
Yeah. You're
and
very
listen,
nervous
your
today,
pace
for sure.
of your presentation is nice. Like, don't speed it up. Like, don't talk faster. Don't go through your slides faster. Just be more succinct in what you say. If you have to make it, like John says, it needs to be shorter in time. Yeah.
I agree. It was a good pace. It's very easy to listen to, but you know, this is not for me to give my input. We have practice sessions for all of that. You know, I really want, if you had any questions, Angel or Nika or Nancy, at any point, not only when you're speaking, but now about any of these programs, I'll continue to ask more questions about, you know, what kind of things Claire and Margaret are doing as well after Nika's. But I just wanted to make sure that was clear to both of you as well. Nika, why don't we go ahead and do your presentation? It looks like Patrick will be joining us a little later, but he's not here now. So if you could share your screen and do your presentation, I'll reset the clock and let you know how much time you take. As I recall, you were pretty quick last time in practice, like less than 5 minutes. So let's see what happens today. You're on mute, I believe,
now unmuted
as well.
All righty.
There you are.
And all right. Can you see my screen?
There we are.
Yes.
Yep, we're good.
All right. Good. Oh, it's not quite afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Nika Nambi, creator of Fight Blight Be More, where we envision transforming data, decision-making, and community like butterflies. Let's go on a brief journey. Imagine your 7-year-old self riding down the street with your friends as you ride past blocks and blocks of this. Vacant houses, doors and windows broken, trees growing up inside. To any kid, especially those with little access to recreation space, this could seem like a playland. In fact, it's a toxic wasteland. I witnessed a similar scene Mother's Day weekend 2016, which accelerated my research of blight, vacancy, population loss, real estate development, and much more. I learned that Baltimore City has a problem with blight. Blight is the presence of vacant, abandoned, dilapidated, underutilized, and misutilized structures, especially in concentrations in communities. But how did some neighborhoods in Baltimore become blighted? Slavery, black codes, Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, restrictive covenants, steering, blockbusting, urban renewal, also known as Negro removal, strategic disinvestment, predatory lending, zoning are all among the chief practices, policies, and laws that cause so much of Baltimore to be blighted. In short, racism is the reason. Its impacts are clear. As Dr. Coco said, if you have to walk past 29 vacant properties to get to school, you've already failed the first grade. Because while taking the walking school bus to a blighted community can damage a child's sense of self-esteem. The loss of population caused by blight erodes the social fabric of communities. Isolation and despair can be found among folks living on blocks where most of the structures are falling down. Blight is experienced as an emotional, physical, and social trauma. The physical health impacts, like elevated heart rates, are a sign of chronic stress that can explain in part why there's a 20-year difference in life expectancy between Roland Park and Sandtown, Winchester. The economic damage caused by blight can be seen through the loss of home values. The average home value in Baltimore is $157,000, whereas in Maryland in general is $292,000. Baltimore city government spends $36.3 million in direct costs addressing blight and loses $51.9 million in property tax revenue. Residents, advocacy and community groups, researchers, municipalities, nor developers have an analytic tool to identify, report, track, and analyze data on blighted property that supports blight remediation or equitable development. There are many disparate data sources containing data on blighted properties, but the access, availability, authenticity, and accuracy of many of these data stores are in question. Also, the analysis of these stores often reflect algorithms of oppression, and pathologizes the ways of being and resistance of Black, Indigenous, and other peoples of color. Our solution is an analytic platform that combines crowdsourced data with municipal and other publicly available blight data that enables identification, reporting, tracking, and analyzing data on blighted property that supports equitable community vision, led and owned blight remediation and community development projects. Beyond developing the app, we reach around community to support those living with blight to imagine and innovate solutions for remediation, from hosting hood hikes to community development hackathons to launching the Hack, a youth-focused community center for imagination, innovation, and incubation. Fight Blight Be More is curating development that will build beloved community. A blighted Baltimore is a bleeding and broke Baltimore. Our goal is to turn a blighted city into a more beloved one. Fight Blight Be More is being designed as a next generation analytic platform to center humanity, community, and culture, and will be offered as a subscription-based service. Currently, we have designed 9 subscriptions, including a general developer, eviction tracker, ownership verification, and 311 audit subscription. The estimated total addressable market for just the general developer subscription is roughly $1 million to $210 million. We anticipate signing up 10% of the 950 local developers in the state by year 2 and growing steadily from there. The subscriber base is varied from residents to researchers to municipalities because blight isn't just a problem in Baltimore. In fact, it's not just an urban problem. It's a rural problem as well, impacting communities from Detroit to Appalachia. The need is the same though. Everyone needs clear and clean data curated to enable equitable community development. The demand for data-driven solutions for blight has produced several applications. Our data curation, customization, and contextualization separates us from the rest. For this investment round, we're seeking to raise $250,000 to support platform development, analytic research, and micro development products. Using funds invested, we plan to launch the full version of the app in Q3 of 2021. We couldn't have gotten this far without our community of advisors, powered by connection, technology, and our lived experience to unblight the block. We reimagine butterflies in Baltimore and beyond. How can you too?
All right. Thank you, Nika. You were at about 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Just as a quick side note, sometimes when you have to do pitches, you'll have a deck and you have gone through it and it's like a 7-minute deck, and then but you have a 5-minute pitch, and so you have to make an adjustment somewhere in it because in the actual pitch presentation or competition, they won't let you have the 2 extra minutes. And so you just have to figure a way out to cut it out. And just to remind you to time out your practice that way. Nice job. Thank you very much for that. Let's go to you first, Margaret, and give your thoughts about it. And then let's talk a little bit about
the first thing my question was, so I think one of the things that I'm interested in seeing was what was in the appendix slide, which was the traction and the customer validation. So I think the slides that were presented were weighted heavy on the problem. There's people always talk about showing the problem and the solution in the slides. The third piece of that triangle is really the customer validation that you've already seen. It doesn't necessarily mean, and sometimes that's about that can be the traction slides or the. In our case, where we are right now, focusing on that quantitative data, or qualitative data, if you will, that you've gotten from potential customers that you've talked about. So that's the developers in the area that you've gotten validation from, and sort of that Basically, you want to show investors and the people that you're pitching to that you have talked directly to the people who are going to eventually buy the product, who are actually the payers. So that's the third piece that I'd love to see in that deck and sort of balance that out the next time. So me, I am the director of portfolio operations at Squadra Ventures. So we're an early stage institutional seed fund based in Baltimore City. So we sort of, we invest in the mid-Atlantic. So we sort of look at companies from Raleigh to Philly is what we like to think about. And most of our investments we write an average of $1 million check into companies that have a really robust plan for how they want to go forward, and they want to have a very hands-on investor. So we, in my role, we meet with our companies on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and we work with them either on strategic planning. So what's our plan for next quarter? Tactical things that we can help them take off their plate or sort of do what I like to phrase out as sprints on. So I was a product manager in a previous life at a startup. So I apply that thinking to a lot of what we do. And then the third piece is very much founder therapy. So helping us think through the hard, challenging people problems and how to work together and how to get through it. So that's a little bit about us. Most of the companies that we work with are SaaS or commercializing defense technologies.
Are you a board member of ETC? Is that the relationship?
So
to
I'm an ETC board member. I'm an ETC grad. So my company was in the incubator. I also been involved with Accelerate Baltimore for many years. This is a vintage circa 2012, I believe, news cup. I did. I got
pulled that out on
back
purpose.
Nice. I have been a Baltimore resident since 2007.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things about Nika's presentation that knocked me out the first time I heard the sentence, and I was waiting for it again, was the quote that she used about the child that walks by 20 abandoned properties and has already failed the first grade. And, it's just a powerful statement to make, and what you're trying to achieve, it strikes me every time I hear your presentation. Claire, could you tell us a little bit about the Momentum Fund and your thoughts about what you've heard so far and
sure. So
what
Nika,
you might
thank
be
you very much.
thinking in that regard?
Okay.
You're on mute.
Nika, you did a really good job. I appreciate your enthusiasm and your excitement about your technology. And I'm particularly passionate about this myself. I think the stuff that I would prefer for you to be focusing your time on. So you spent more than half your presentation talking about the fact that there is blight in lots of different places. And like Margaret, I want you to have, one slide about blight. It's a huge issue. Give me some statistics. And then I want you to jump into what's your solution. And what I didn't understand from your solution is how you compare with a myriad of other data that covers blight. So for example, if you're not familiar with the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative in Baltimore, it's an organization that tries to make sure there's no lead paint in homes and things like that, and which is not necessarily boarded up buildings, but they have an extraordinary amount of data about every property address. And then there's property tax information about that the city holds. I'm sure it's not complete, but what I didn't hear from your presentation is what your data is, how you're collecting your data, and how it's different from what exists right now. And I'm sure you have an answer to that, but I would much rather, instead of hearing more about the fact that there is a problem, what you're solving, because there are a lot of organizations that are collecting this data. So that's number one. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the quick and dirty is that most of the data, I mentioned desperate data sources. So you have CodeMet, you have Econv, you have CityView, you have Estet, you have Bina, you have Bold. All of that data is sitting in different places. It is not curated together in one place, which is what our platform will do. Curate it together in one place, but also contextualize it in ways that make it easy to make equitable development decisions. So those
Wonderful.
are the two pieces.
So your slide 1 should be, there's a lot of blight going on, and have some statistics. Your slide 2 should be exactly that. My tool is doing X, Y, and Z so that it's easier for people to make decisions to reduce blight. That's what your deck should show. It should be the punchline right away. The other thing that I want you to think about, which is a much broader issue and something that a lot of us in the entrepreneurial space think about, is like Baltimore, just as an example. And as you are correctly stating, these are urban issues and rural issues all over the country, right? But Baltimore specifically, there is a lot of open space. And so what are you going to do with it? Not just it exists, but lots of people are talking about, how do we make biohealth, how do we make Baltimore City a biohealth capital, right, of the country? And there is a lot of space. So how are you really going to effectively move some of this blighted space into dry labs and wet labs? Like, what are you actually going to do, and how are you going to get the money to either demolish what exists, like what Hopkins did north of their medical school campus? They literally just demolished several square blocks and started over. Or how are you going to update what exists so that you have functional space, right? Because, and I think, I'm not sure that your solution is solving that, but you want to say that you've got data to help make those decisions more effectively.
Right, absolutely. And that is a part of it. One of the subscriptions is an equitable appraisal subscription. And the purpose of that is so that folks can, one of the challenges for people to get money in order to do the development that is necessary for many of the properties is banks won't lend based on the low appraised value. So to create a mechanism by which you could appraise the future value of the property post the redevelopment, so that one, we don't have situations where Hopkins is displacing people to build new shiny stuff, right? So we have a number of different subscriptions that address different pieces of what you mentioned, but the equitable appraisal of subscription is one of those.
Got it. Thank you. And yeah, just real quick on the Momentum Fund, we're a $10 million fund. We invest in early stage startups loosely affiliated with the University System of Maryland. Our goal is twofold. One is to make money so we can invest in more early stage startups, and the other is to build the entrepreneurial community. My involvement in ETC is, I know Deb Tillett, so I've given a bunch of classes over the years, and I have been in this position a little over a year and have been investing in companies that came from ETC.
Thank you, Claire. Ronnie, listening to Nika's presentation, did anything go off in your head about possibilities of partnerships with faculty at the University of Maryland?
Sure.
Or other
so
things
first
that you
on
think
your
might be
presentation,
relevant
Nika, like your passion with it, agreed with that. Claire covered a number of things I was going to say. Another one specific to your slide deck is I found what you were speaking and saying wasn't matching up well with what was on that current slide, and you were eventually getting to it. But what I end up doing, and I think a lot of people would do, is I'm looking at the deck trying to follow what you're saying and keying into it, and they didn't match up, especially that impact slide. You were covering, you were getting to it, but you were covering some other really important points that weren't on the slide, right? So I would say always make sure those match, like what you're speaking of at the time, that they match up. But other than that, I really liked it. One more thing. My question to you would be, and so I think a number of people listening to you would be, where are you in your product development? Is this ready for people to purchase from you, or is it still in beta stage, or have you done any coding at all, right? Because you're early stage. So where you can tell me now, but also have that some comment mention of that in your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually had an MVP that was developed and tested by youth workers that we hired last year. And so post the test, we did a redesign with the assistance of the T. Rowe Price design team, and we are finalizing the updated design from which in January it is our intent to issue an RFP for development of the full version of that.
Fantastic. Okay, great to hear that. And to answer John's question, with MIPS, here's the thing, is any of that, you just mentioned that stage you're at in development, we do many software development projects with MIPS. Here's the thing that professors aren't interested in. They don't want to just like design a new user interface for you, right? They don't want to just do a mobile app for you, right? Because they want things that are challenging and different for their students to work on, their grad students in particular and their postdocs. So, but if you have any development testing, verification that it really works, that it really does what it's supposed to do, if those are all any of those things you need done that you would yourself have to do or pay to have done, pay to someone to have it done, think about that for a MIPS, right? Because there are phenomenal computer science, computer engineering professors at Maryland, especially at College Park and UMBC being even closer to the city. So not that it matters. I want to say this about MIPS. If the right professor for you is at Frostburg, we'll team you up with them. It happens, right? But we always look geographically first at the closest campuses to where the company's located, just for handy. In the days when we could meet in person, which hopefully we get back to that, right? But really, truly, it's anything. And John, are you sharing with these folks our contact info so you know where to go for their website? Okay. In my personal email, yeah.
Absolutely.
So be happy to talk with you more offline about that.
We'll do it. Excellent. Thank you so much.
I definitely could see some synergy surrounding the data analytics piece.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, since it's a grant thing and it's just a 10% match, it sounds like something that you ought to pursue, Angel, as well. I mean, there's a lot of different angles I could see working in with your team, Angel. Not just the technology, the research, and the algorithm, and sort of like the whole HR piece, or sociology and political science, and other things that will factor into some of those metrics that you have. So worth a discussion. The other thing I was just wondering, Margaret, if I could just ask you a question. So to a private investor, when you have a partner like you're in a MIPS program, does it gives you more credibility, or what does it do for the young startup when you have a partnership like that, that you can
so
sort
I
of
think
pull out
any
and talk
opportunity
about?
where you're able to say this is how, this is the data behind why we're having an impact, and the validation side. So I noticed that some of you, I think, have started to build out that advisory team, or I think that was one of your slides, Nico, was your advisory group. It's sort of how are those people stacking up? And so often in a MIPS case, and Ronnie can correct me if I'm wrong, but those that professor, that advisor, that becomes someone you're going to carry along with you as you continue to work with the company. They become essentially an extension of your team. So it's really important. Each of those people that you wind up putting on your advisory board, sometimes people get sucked into the allure of they did this is some amazing person that did all this research or has these other accomplishments, but I never actually talked to and engaged with them. They're really just a face on a slide to look like validation. What we would then look into as we evaluate from for a larger investment perspective is how involved and committed are these people who the company is working with, committed and involved with their driving towards success. So that's really what we would look at it from. So it's great to have that validation. So even having gone through a program like ETC, the Accelerate Baltimore, that becomes a stamp of validation of the learning experience and essentially the entrepreneurial culture that you all have now been developed up in. And so MIPS would add to that as well. And it's really about how you critically activate those additional resources to keep them involved with your company.
Yeah, John, if I could jump in, Margaret, 100% correct. And I would also add that having a MIPS grant, or having had other investors, whether it's Momentum Fund, TEDCO, any of the other, you always want to mention that, because it shows that other organizations have vetted you and awarded you and found that you are worthwhile to invest in. So we get this question a lot, and it's interesting. On our proposal, we ask, is this the only funding you currently have for this work, right? And it's a yes or no, and you can put information in if it's a yes. If it's a no, it's not the only. And we get the question all the time, well, I got a TEDCO grant or I've got a MII grant, but I shouldn't put that down, right? I don't want the reviewers to think I don't need the funding. And we go, no. Everybody knows you need more money. It's okay. But you want to always mention if you've been previously vetted and awarded, especially, or even if you just applied, but you haven't even gotten the news yet.
But that doesn't mean let yourself become a company that just chases the awards.
Not about way bigger.
Definitely a culture of entrepreneurs who sort of keep pursuing our accelerator jumpers. They keep pursuing these small 25K things instead of focusing on growing the business and getting to that next level.
Good point.
We want to see.
We're just talking about team building and things of that nature, and really building out your advisory board and your board. And it kind of shows that you are reaching out for folks to assist you outside of your own comfort zone. And also, I think, shares that, you don't have a company full of yes folks that are just kind of like going along with you, and that might actually give you some critical advice or go in another direction instead of it all being the same choir. So Mohammed, are you with us? Can you unmute and bring up your video, and perhaps I can put you on stage next?
Yes, definitely, John. Hello, everyone.
Hey, there you are. Good deal. So Angel or Nico, when Patrick shows up, he is into the session, I'm going to drop one of you off so that he can come up, that we can only have these 9. Okay. So the floor is yours, Mohammed, and we can go.
So I'm sharing my screen, right? Okay, I'm looking for that right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you out on the job, Patrick? That's commitment, dude. I love it. You can mute your mic.
I'm having a problem sharing my screen, John.
Oh no. Okay. Are you able to do your pitch looking at your deck yourself and just give us your pitch?
I prefer to show you my screen.
I know you guys have been working on the deck.
So when I accidentally tried to share my screen earlier, it popped up the approval in a separate window on a different screen. So you might have to see if you can look at all the different pop-up wherever it was like a mystery pop-up. So I don't know if that's helpful, but.
Okay, I guess I'll just get to it.
You can't pull it up? Celine,
here we go.
Okay, cool.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed, Full Blast Steam CEO, and we're a Baltimore-based EdTech Virtual Academy. We've worked with thousands of Maryland youth over the past 5 years in search of that magical mix of educational technologies that really excite young people about STEM and provide us with the most leverage in encouraging them towards STEM pursuits. This Baltimore this is Baltimore, where fun turns into felonies quick for a lot of our students. So it's imperative that we create spaces for them where access to quality tech activities and learning 21st century skills is a viable alternative for them. And we believe that our young people will respond. If the technology that they engage with, it has to fit. They have to like it. It has to fit with their lives, and they have to see a clear path to benefit. We've made over $100,000 for 2 years in a row. We've worked with organizations across the city, all of the big colleges in some capacity. We've listened to our clients' concerns about the tech that they use and the disconnect between activities and actual industry skills. Industry skills and experience with industry tools. So we've designed programming and a wide range of activities and upgrades to 6 major areas of STEM edutainment as we define it. So those activities are, so we like to, those activities are robots, drones, virtual reality, IoT gaming, bringing in Internet of Things, virtual reality, and 3D printing pens. So providing greater access to those activities, we see is a big part of the solution, and we're positioned to scale our value add with citywide tech gaming competitions to incentivize the best of Baltimore, to encourage a culture of skill building in the city on a large scale. So the way we get to the large scale impact, the big road to these STEM jobs, is through our current activities in the virtual academy, creating a strong backbone for future virtual pursuits, and engaging 501c3s and businesses and organizations such as DoD and Job Corps with virtual activities that tie to the competition events, right? So the young people, the students, they're learning competition applications, tournament-based applications for the programming skills that they're learning, for the critical thinking skills that they're learning, the electronics related skills that they're learning, the programming skills that they're learning. So building this tournament competition piece so that it's 21st century focused. It's not antiquated like some of the existing ed tech that's dominated the field for the past 15 years. And we're incorporating the best of educational technologies and really supporting our youth and investing in them as human beings. Making money is obviously important with anything that we're going to scale. So the experiences that we're creating, we have a place at family entertainment centers around the nation to provide these types of educational activities to their populations in their particular locations. This is an example of one of the activities, one of the upgrades to the drone related market. It's a hot market. Your drone racing, your drone, the careers in understanding how to fly drones. So this particular educational technology is able to be incorporated into schools, colleges, youth programs as an OST event, a basis for events and further programming knowledge, learning programming. So we have a range of virtual classes that we teach now, and we can fit those classes to the needs of the client. We have equipment kits and subscription kits to equipment related activities, a hybrid model of online and in-person learning. And we have the larger scale event-based activities that we can also sell to the family entertainment center market and scale across the country. The competitor's approach is pretty much just stale, biased, and old, and we're just looking to use the best tools of the 21st century to upgrade the engagement and the activities for our young people. So in short, we want our our folks to have 24/7 access to be able to practice their new crafts as budding engineers. If you're a basketball player, you need to have access to a court. And right now, our young people that we want to fill these vast amount of STEM jobs that are available right now, they don't have anywhere to practice their craft. So that's what we want to create. And we want you all to help us launch the new sport and help us change the game. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I didn't start the timer until 2 minutes ago, so have no idea how long it took. I appreciate that. I'm sorry,
I had 5.5
Ronnie.
minutes.
It seems like
I started it right when Muhammad actually started to, once he got the screen share started and started talking.
Okay, cool. Okay, excellent. So Stan, Muhammad's out of the presentation you heard so far, they've been in business for a couple of years, several years actually, and have already been generating revenues pre-COVID, and then they've made a pivot to post-COVID. What kind of impact would that have in sort of getting in front of in front of the DCA, Dingman Center Angels? I don't think Muhammad was here when you spoke about your program. I just wanted to see if there was an opportunity to.
I was.
Or were you?
I was, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes, I've been tuned in the whole time.
Thank you. Okay, great. So sorry about that. Thoughts that come to mind, Stan, about this,
but
and
there's always
where
an
they stand versus
when you
maybe
have
an earlier
traction
stage?
to come in front of our group. I think what I would say is you have the luxury of data to convey to people on what you've done and how effective you've been. One of the things I would have loved to have seen in the presentation is how effective have your programs been? How have you changed? How many students have come through the program? How have you changed the arc of their young careers? So when you haven't launched, it's always about the promise, and it's about the problem, and you have a solution to solve that problem. But once you've launched, you move from kind of promise to performance. And so what I would have loved to have seen, especially if you want to pitch an angel group, is we identified a hypothesis. We built a solution against that hypothesis. We've tested that hypothesis. Here's what we learned, and here's kind of our traction and performance. So what I've loved for you to do is say, we launched 4 years ago. We had X number of students come through the program. Of those students, 20% of them ended up enrolling in a college or university where they pursued a STEM program as a career or as a professional track. The other thing I would say is you made a powerful statement about your competitors saying that they're old and stale. What I would have loved for you have done is to kind of contrast what you're doing and what is unique about your platform relative to your competitors. When you make strong statements like that, then the powerful counter statement would have been, here's how we're new, unique, and different. I didn't see that in the presentation. And so I think to kind of summarize, one, once you've launched, it's always important to show traction and data and what you learned. And then the second thing is when you make statements vis-a-vis competitors, what is unique and different about you and allows you to develop a sustainable, defensible competitive advantage. So those are my two comments. And happy to unpack those and go in any direction. But generally, I thought it was a great presentation. The only other thing I would say is when you're on a Zoom call, I would be careful reading from a script because you lose eye contact with the audience. And, you have a really compelling story and you have a great way of presenting. There were times where I lost contact with you and then I faded a little bit. So always maintain your eye contact with the audience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that comment. And by the way, yeah, Muhammad is like, passionate, intense speaker. And you did kind of lose that a little bit when you are reading. but again, you had another great line. Fun turns into felonies real quick here in Baltimore. Another powerful statement about the state of our city and our country that you can build upon. Your intensity and your passion gets lost when you read, Muhammad. And this stuff, man. You could close your eye. This stuff so well, man. And so I really want to, we're gonna work on getting that script away from you and letting you just go and be yourself on this, because this stuff, and that passion it comes across like I want to be in his class. I need to be a part of this effort. Anyways, I wanted to say that. The other thing is that I think maybe Claire and Ronnie might have some interest in hearing more about what you're doing with STEM and how that equates to the universities, or the relationship that you said that you worked with almost all the universities in the past. Claire was mentioning that the Momentum Fund funds programs that have people associated with the university. I wasn't exactly sure how that connection worked. Maybe we can start there, and then we can go to Ron about.
Yeah, sure. So, Muhammad, you did a really nice job. You have a lot of passion, and I'm so grateful that you're working on this. I live in Baltimore City, kids in Baltimore City public schools, and STEM is so important, and more so now with COVID. So thank you for your service. I think what I would add is just there's a hell of a lot of people working on this issue. So who are you partnering with? Thread is one example, thread.org. You've got, University of Maryland, Baltimore takes grad students from the medical school and nursing school and pharmacy school and they mentor 7th grade students through high school on STEM. Exactly. So I'd love to connect you with them, because there's a whole, like the law school, pharmacy school, all of these people are donating their time to help inner city kids with. So I completely agree with you. That's a huge issue, and I applaud what you're doing, but there's a lot of people doing it. And so as a potential investor, I'd want to know that you've looked at all the competition and that you're working with the competition to figure out why what you're doing enables other people to do things better too. And I get you want to make money, but it's really about also just how are you trying to make the community broader and working all together to serve more students. Yeah.
Pardon me for a second while I plug in my laptop.
I see an old friend there behind you, Margaret.
I know.
Wonderful. Wow, long time no see. Hi. So nice for you to join us. Yeah, right. That's so cool. Margaret, I'm so glad that you highlighted that quote for Stan. That was a great quote, Stan. When you've launched yeah, I don't know what just happened to your audio, but that was a great quote, Stan. I really appreciate that. Is it my audio, or is it just generally speaking?
Okay, now. It was strange there for a minute.
Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, it got strange for a second. Ronnie, and folks, just as a heads up, I thought we would, I know we've been sort of loose on the timing, and we're already at 12:22. We've got 2 more pitches. I really want to be respectful of your time, and I tried to say that up front, and then here I'm not being respectful of it and asking you to give me a few more minutes. Actually, what I'd like to do is to, Ronnie, for you to give any thoughts you have to Muhammad, and then I'm going to really quickly jump in with Nancy's pitch, and then maybe we can get close to.
Sure, I'll be very quick. Muhammad, I enjoyed your. I guess he's still there. He's gone.
He's gone off. He's gone off mic, but he's still here.
Agree with everything Stan and Claire said for sure. And I would add, just as a critique, watch the uhs. You've got a lot of time that you spend going, record yourself and play it back, and work on getting rid of those. Okay, if you're speaking, especially when you're going to be on these really tight 3 and 5 minute presentations, that they are gonna nail you. When it's 5 minutes, it's like stop, you're done, right? So watch those. You obviously know exactly what you're talking about, and I really agreed with the eye contact thing. And Zoom, of course, it's important, or whatever this platform, but even in person, right? If you're giving a presentation or a pitch, whatever, make sure you might have a note card with just some bullets on it, but don't be reading from it. It's really important. And I would say in your presentation, the content really liked it. Thought it was clear what you're about, what you're planning to do. What you didn't do or ask is what's the ask at the end. It wasn't clear to me. What are you looking for? Are you looking for a specific investment, right? So I'd be a little more clear on that. What you asking for, and maybe in the given pitch that's already a known. Like there's a prize, right? It's a competition with an award. But if you're looking for investors, they're going to want to know what kind of investment are you looking for, and that's
I was working with them this morning, Ron, and there was the ask slide. Like, nah, take that out. We don't. so that was just because this morning I was thinking, okay, well, we were doing our one-on-one with his colleague Rob, and it was kind of like every pitch has a specific ask, and so you kind of learn who you're talking to. And what you're talking about, and then you sort of tailor your ask to that group. And this particular group, this was different. So I had actually mentioned that. But thank you for those comments. And Nancy, you are up. And Patrick was trying to come in. I don't know what happened to him. He's gone. You were going last. Here. You are now going, and so I hope you can hear me and unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm still here. I haven't gone anywhere.
Oh, guess what? Patrick is here. Oh, okay. Well, so what? You're on a job and you're gonna do your pitch.
I figured it'd be like a real life pitch. Why not? Let's real life pitch it today. And that's a heck of an elevator if you got to do it on the fly, right? So can I proceed or should I get back in line? Okay, cool, well, wonderful. So first off, I definitely apologize for any background noise. I might get a little bit loud. But my name's Patrick, and I am the founder of a company called Super. Just a quick fun fact, Super is actually foreign for driver, and that's kind of the gist of what we do here. We are a marketplace for commercial drivers. So you picture Fiverr or Upwork or maybe even Craigslist on steroids, and you get our platform at Super. Couple of little backstory about myself. I spent 10 years as a bus driver in Baltimore City. And I saw an opportunity to help CDL holders get more opportunities and not necessarily working for just one stationary employer, but working for multitudes of people and just using their skill to make the most money as possible. Getting into the kind of meat and potatoes of what we do in a real life pitch, this is actually a real life scenario. If you guys are from the Baltimore area, you know that yesterday we had a train derail on Howard Street. And because of that, the entire logistics network from the port to Curtis Bay to the Chesapeake Bay is actually down. Nothing is going up or down that tunnel until they get those 21 cars that almost stretch 1.5 miles upright. So because of that, it's created a logistical nightmare for a lot of shippers and warehouses and people who have to send time-sensitive stuff. And that's an example where Super could be utilized and could be very efficient and effective. And, so those in the cohort who kind of been, following us and kind of what we do. Today was actually the first day we made over $1,000 in revenue, which was really, really awesome. Some of our competitors like Uber Freight, Relay on Demand, while they are really good companies, one of the things that make us unique and is kind of our secret sauce in a sense is we figured out how to implement buses and trash trucks where a lot of our competitors are just kind of stationary 53-footer tractor trailers, whereas we have a more diverse platform where our drivers really maximize their license and they can drive straight trucks, refrigerator trucks, trash trucks, dump trucks, anything that's not an airplane, our drivers are able to take care of. there's a great quote that I had mentioned the other day that everybody really liked, in saying that Wayne Gretzky said one of the reasons he was a really great hockey player was because he didn't go where the puck was at. He went to where the puck was going to go. And almost by 2025, almost half of Americans will be working in an on-demand gig-style economy. And I wanted Super to be I wanted Super to represent the future for commercial drivers and be in a marketplace where the world's best drivers can connect with some of the world's best companies. And that's what we do. We take a 20% commission every time we connect a company with the driver. And I guess that's kind of the just elevator pitch. I'm sorry, I'm not a lot more organized. I've been on the road since like 6 this morning, but It's been a really, really good day for our company. And it's going to get better. We still got more things to do, and I'm really excited about it. But I didn't want to pass up an opportunity to be able to get out here and audition and pitch for you guys and still work to improve and kind of figure this thing out literally in real life, in real time. I thought it was a cool opportunity to be able to do that. Yeah, I tried to get out the parking lot.
It was really cool to watch you walking around and doing this too, man. Yeah, no. It's, when the sun was in the camera, it wasn't as fun. I couldn't see you as well, but you seem every time you pitch, you sound a little bit more, comfortable, a little bit more sure of yourself. So today was great. Thank you. You are finally starting to generate revenue. That is one of the sort of requirements with some of these funds. And, you have a marketplace application. Margaret, let's kick it off with your thoughts and any sort of connecting points that you think might be available.
I started trading met with him at
Margaret. Can you change your audio?
No, your audio. Your audio. It's like really slow and just not. Yeah, there's an audio problem.
No.
No. Stan, if you're talking to us, you can unmute. Well, I don't know. Maybe we got a challenge there. Let's move on. Let's move over to you, Claire.
We can't hear him,
and
which is weird. Stan, should I say something? No. So, Patrick, thank you for your service. It's super exciting.
You guys have to tune in.
Of course. I mean, what are you looking for now? What do you need? Investment? What do you need? Do you need connections? Do you need introductions? What can we do to be most helpful?
I would love connections. Anybody you guys know that has a vehicle, please point them in my direction. I would love to drive it or connect them with somebody who would love to drive it.
Okay.
No, that granular to like literally.
Can you connect me to people
a connection to a person with a vehicle?
Buses, trucks, dump trucks. Can you connect me to a short staff transportation?
Gotcha.
There we go.
Okay, so people who have vehicles that don't have staff is what you're asking.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so like I'm spitballing with you. I'm not. This is not my field at all. Like, are you talking about like Maryland Food Bank, or are you talking about Baltimore City Public Schools, or what are you talking about?
So any of those entities could actually be a client. I do know Baltimore City Food Bank. They do have those big trucks that transport food, and I know as well other parts in Baltimore City do utilize commercial drivers, and sometimes they do short.
Got it. Okay, so you're trying to find people who have vehicles but don't have drivers. And it's not like most people that I know that are trying to do stuff like that, they go work for Amazon, right?
Close, yes. Amazon does delivery or they do long haul, cross-country freight, whereas we kind of specialize local Maryland, DMV, and we're specifically commercial vehicle across the board where Amazon has a big focus, their DSP program. which is more so focused on general license holders, whereas we focus more on commercial license holders.
Got it. Okay. And then you link those commercial license holders with people who need drivers to get stuff from place to place. Got it. Okay. Okay, but you don't need money right now, correct?
As of right now, no.
Okay.
I like to thrive off of mentorship and connections and relationships and doing it that for the time being.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love it. And are you working with, this is maybe an off the wall question, but are you working with labor unions right now or not?
So yes, we actually started off with labor unions, particularly ATU 1300 to be specific. That's with MDOT. Conversations are warm, but maybe I'm gonna say late November we pivoted a little bit, and instead of really focusing on transit buses, because that's what brought us to the dance, that's my personal specialty, we found a lot of success and opportunity in working with smaller independent companies who didn't have as much red tape, like labor unions and just the bureaucracy that could be public government or a big corporation. Today, I'm actually working for a local, regular owned private company, and we've had a lot of traction with that the last week or so.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Thank you.
Good job, dude. Good job today. You want to try again, Margaret?
Yes. Let's see.
I see your questions.
Oh, there you go.
Your comments in this.
I did the refresh
section.
So my question was really, I think, to
there you go.
One
There
is
you
having
go. Good.
always have a super specific ask. I think that goes for everybody, even if you're not asking for funding. Make sure you've done the research on who you're going to be presenting specific to ask them for, because it's a great opportunity. Like you said, you wouldn't want to miss being here. My question was, since I have a little bit of insider knowledge, since Jackie is also working with Patrick through the Baltimore program at Loyola, I wanted to hear about the product and the app development, because I know you've had a lot of, that's been a big investment and had a lot of success there so far.
The application, it should be on our website. It's not completed, but you can book me on our website. To get the other drivers, I got to get those guys integrated. But it's actually up. You can check it out. It's very, I think, familiar to people if you've used services like Upwork or Fiverr, for example. And it's for the most part, it's pretty automated. You're able to just kind of go research your driver. You're able to book them in real time. We're able to kind of get commissions and transactions without having to do a lot of legwork. So it's a pretty cool software, I think.
Can you hear me, John? So I love the idea. I love the idea of marketplaces.
Yep, go for it, Stan.
But marketplaces are often the hardest business to build in digital businesses, because you're building two businesses. You're building the supply side and the demand side, right? And the challenge is the chicken and the egg. So drivers won't come if they don't have business, and businesses won't join if they don't have drivers. So can you talk about how you've balanced the chicken and egg, so that the idea is to have liquidity, so you have a whole lot of drivers and a whole lot of user or customers, so that when there's a query, there's a match. And so how do you build liquidity? How do you balance the chicken and the egg, getting drivers and people that want to hire those drivers, so that when someone comes to your site, they have a good experience? The worst thing that can happen is someone searches for a driver and you don't have enough drivers. So how have you dealt with the chicken and the egg?
As of right now, we haven't encountered heavy chicken and egg problems, because it's kind of been me and a closed network people I know who've kind of been executing the jobs. We're working on a screening process now where we're looking for certain credentials. I worked with a gentleman named John G on this, and just helping me hone down on very good, personal, passionate questions to ask the drivers that'll eventually be on our platform. And give me a second, loud. And to make sure we have the most drivers on our platform to meet those businesses and their expectations, we offer them what the employers don't, and that's just time, like the freedom to control your schedule. If you want to work overnight, you can do that here. Being a driver myself and doing it for 10 years, I'm also a father and a husband. And I realized I didn't like having control of my time. I didn't like being away from my kids. If you've been on these calls, you've seen my baby boy. He always hops in the camera and stuff. And working with the drivers, I realized there was a lot of people in situations like that where they were single parents, or they had are the challenges that wouldn't allow them to go work a full-time job for a conventional company. And that's honestly one of the reasons why when you're driving up and down the road, you see so many transportation companies hiring. You get the benefits, you get the salary, but nobody's going to work for them. And as somebody who's worked in that industry, I understand it has nothing to do with the money or the benefits. It has everything to do with just time with your family. You know, we live in a different society now where people are valuing flexibility. People who work jobs now are valuing flexibility and freedom and feeling like they have a little bit more control over their time more than anything. So when we reach out to drivers, it's like, hey, you know, come over here and pick your own schedule. If you don't want to, it's kind of like how Uber drivers go online. If you don't want to work from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., then don't. If you're a weekend person, I know people who like to wake up at 3 a.m. and do jobs. So let's give those people those opportunities. There are also people who like to work overnight. Let's give them those opportunities. That was kind of our way of getting rid of things like seniority systems, where if you go work for an employer, your schedule is based upon how long you've been there, and you don't really have control over it. Whereas with Super, if you want to work at 6 p.m., you can work at 6 p.m. So that's kind of how we've worked with that. And as far as the eggs with the businesses, I would like to say we just have a strategic targeting process, whereas I kind of hunt them down in a strategic way, whereas I find the ones who I feel like I know we will be a good fit for before I even outreach. And I typically already know that I can probably handle the job. You know, like I wouldn't go reach out to, for example, Maryland State government to evacuate a city because they might need 100 drivers, and I know I don't have 100 right now. But when I do get 100, I would probably explore that. So I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, I apologize. I hope I did at least a job.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, I hope you did too, because it was 6 minutes in answering, and so you might want to try to shorten the answers a little bit, just to make sure that you're answering the question being asked, and not in too great a detail. I do need to Stan, unless you wanted to follow up, I would go ahead and move to. Well, I saw your face kind of pull up, so I wanted to give you a chance to follow up if you had something.
One of the things that I'd love to hear more about, and you don't have to do it here, I think you're very clear with the value proposition on the driver side, that it gives them flexibility, et cetera, et cetera. I think where I would focus my efforts going forward is what is the value proposition to, or understanding, if I'm an investor, what is the need on the business side? Like, what are the options they have right now, and why is working with your service better? Like, it's clear the value proposition to the driver, but it's unclear about what is your value proposition relative to other sources of drivers for the business. So you don't have to address that here, but going forward, to me, that would be helpful if I were evaluating you as an investment opportunity.
And so, John, sorry, I unfortunately do have to run.
Thank you,
so
Stan.
I have a 12:45.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna say, I know, and so does Claire. And Nancy wanted to go last because she was like had to go first last time, and now this time you get to go when no one's actually watching, Nancy. So this ought to be a really good pitch opportunity for you.
I do. I'm sorry.
No, Claire. So do you need to jump off as well? Or you do? And I
can do one more.
Margaret, Stan, do you have time for one more?
5 minutes for one.
And Ronnie, one more. So Margaret, thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you so much. And Jackie, wonderful to see you back there. I just haven't seen you in so long. It was like family.
Fantastic.
Claire, thank you for joining and sharing your thoughts.
Great.
I know this was kind of like a different way to do it, but I just have a chance to hear what they had to say.
And just one thing to everybody, it was really great to meet you. I think, as always, add all of us on LinkedIn. Stay connected to us. John will give you all of our information. We're on your team here. And so we're excited to see where you go and how we can be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Take care.
Thank you so much.
You too.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Margaret. Take care. So, Nancy, the floor is now yours, Nancy, and you have no more to be waiting for. You have our attention.
Okay,
can you share your screen? Do you have a deck? How would you like to proceed?
I do not have a deck. I can tell you more about that after the call. It's actually not a technical problem. It's a no, it's confusion around it being a shorter pitch, and so we
just
didn't
don't like
need
the
a
deck.
So that was Okay. Okay. So
okay, no, proceed. Tell us about your company.
I am Nancy Goldring, founding partner and CEO of DIPS Technology. I'm here today to talk with you about the power of community and connectivity, especially among those in Baltimore's urban centers, the underserved, and those who are cut off with little to no access to knowledge and information necessary for living. Aside from what our media would have us to believe, this is not a new problem. It's an issue as old as America herself. You see, I am a product of a community whose origin dates back to the Hampton Plantation, still in place in Towson, Maryland today. My ancestors were once the newly freed slaves making their way in the world that denied them access to the technology of their day, reading and writing. What does that look like today? It looks like 4 out of 10 households across the city without internet access. It looks like children who couldn't log on for school at the beginning of this school year, and seniors missing vital medical appointments, either out of fear of being exposed to a potentially deadly virus or because their doctors are only available virtually and they have no idea how to connect. So Sankofa Community Network is our solution to this problem. And as a digital service provider company, we aim to bridge the digital divide in West Baltimore's public and senior housing communities. We do this by providing a safe and secure Wi-Fi network, remote patient monitoring suites, and chronic illness monitoring apps. So the need for Wi-Fi is obvious. So why health suites and chronic illness monitoring? Well, over 4,000, nearly 4,000 seniors living in West Baltimore. Of that number, 85% have at least one chronic illness. 60% have 2. Imagine if they were able to monitor, report, track in real time with real-time data, the ebb and flow of their condition and communicate with healthcare professionals in less time than it would take to make an appointment. So at Sankofa Community Network, we've learned that often the catch to trying something new is attaching it to something familiar. And to that end, we've decided to create remote patient monitoring suites to be located in senior housing and neighborhood faith-based centers. And these suites allow our seniors access to doctors and alternative healthcare professionals without ever leaving their neighborhood. These clean, secure virtual clinics will allow patients and doctors the privacy necessary for consulting, monitoring, and tracking their chronic health conditions. We're going to spend about $60,000 to build the safe and secure Wi-Fi network and the virtual clinic in McCullough Homes, located at City View at McCullough Homes, and staffed with at least 2 part-time workers to cover the 12 hours of operation. We expect to generate close to $100,000 in our first year. That revenue will grow in the following years with device retailing, as well as increased adoption rates and enrollment rates. So how that plays out on the day-to-day is $7.90 per patient visit paid by Medicare, $4.90 per patient visit paid by Medicaid. In addition, revenue will be generated from healthcare providers, app vendors, data report sales, and medical supplies. Our first suite is set to launch by first quarter 2021. In addition, we have an app partner, Butterfly, who has agreed to share their platform with us as a way of adding additional value to their existing patient and payer provider base. Following the launch of our pilot, our plan is to rapidly deploy 12 other sites in West Baltimore, followed by another 10 sites in other parts of the city. These sites will cost about 30% less to deploy and increase our revenues by 20 to 25%. So Sankofa Community Network is the oasis in Baltimore's digital desert. We're building a business and a brand grounded in what we can give, how we can serve in ushering Baltimore seniors onto the virtual medical landscape with dignity, security, and care. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm hopeful that you'll join us in bridging the digital divide in Baltimore. What I'd like is your experience with growth. We've only used about 15% of our first tranche so far. And as we are poised not just to launch, but the clearer we get about our model to grow, I'd like any insight you can offer on growing and on how to responsibly transition from 9 to 5 to eyes on the prize. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You were at about 6 minutes, an improvement from each time you've done it. Thank you so much. I'm going to give the floor to Stan first. You're on mute.
Still don't hear him.
No, I don't know. Oh, God.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
All right, we'll let you start then, Ronnie,
Nancy,
and then we'll
really
go back to
enjoyed your
Stan.
presentation. Very well done without a slide deck. One thing for you personally, I would make eye contact with the camera more of the time. You're looking down. I'm not sure if you were reading or not, but it's real important. And Stan brought this up in a previous presentation. It's real important. But content-wise, really enjoyed it. So I'm a manufacturing, engineering, and operations guy from before my time with Maryland Industrial Partnership. So my first thoughts are, that sounds like a great idea. Do you have arrangements in place? Your first site you mentioned, are you having to rent that space? Are they donating that space? And how much outfitting do you have to do? And is that part of your business model for that?
Yes. So our first space is
good question.
Available to us in a county building. I am the president of the community association. We have control of the building, and there are rooms in the building where we intend to fit up our first virtual clinic. As a matter of fact, I met with a contractor on Saturday. And so my guesstimations appear to be right on track. It's going to cost us, between fitting up the space and equipment, fitting up the space is only going to cost us $1,500. The equipment, probably another $600. So my estimate was $2,500. It looks like we can come in under the $2,500, and then we go.
Okay. So great. That's great to hear on that first one, because the first site is huge, right? To try this out. But just going forward in your business model, every case might be different. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Because we are intending to use existing community assets, faith-based centers, our intention is to partner, meaning that we see this as an opportunity to be of service to the community. Outside of what their insurance pays for their visits, there's no cost to the person arriving. And so we see it as an opportunity for each partner to build their own brand as it relates to community service. So if you have a room, as so many buildings do, that's either not being used at all or isn't used that often, that we could then fit up for the very same thing.
Right. So that sounds like that's a great model. It's just if you've considered it, right? That's not like,
yes.
That's going to be something we hadn't expected, and it's going to be this huge expense down the road, type of thing. You mentioned Medicare and Medicaid, which would be huge. Do you know for sure that you qualify for that your program?
Well, what we have learned by benefit of the program is that we can partner as an on-call contractor with someone who's already approved while we are waiting to get through the application process. Our service is approved. That's how we were able to come up with the pricing. That wasn't out of the air. That's what Medicare and Medicaid are already paying for similar services.
Excellent, good. And my last question for you, and you may want to address, I'm thinking in your presentation, is how does COVID affect you, right? Being able to do this, right? You're going to set up for that and people feel that they'll be safe to come in and see you and do this during COVID.
Yes, sir. So COVID in many respects is how we came up with the idea. Often you have people that are in environments where they either do not have the technology to log in for a virtual health appointment, or they don't have the privacy.
Yeah.
And so it gives them a safe, clean space where they can come. We intend to be CDC compliant in terms of the cleaning. As a matter of fact, the contractor knew enough to talk with me about how to manage the flooring to keep that clean. So yes, I would say one of our selling points to the community is that it is clean. There is a temperature check before you come in. There's a site actually that the county has where you need to log in about whether if you're having any kind of issues, you gain access, for those who can do that. You come to us, you get a temperature scan, you come in. There is an attendant who at least can get you set up with the technology and then leaves. And so essentially that means that the person coming for the appointment doesn't need to touch anything, really.
Perfect. So I would say the first couple of some little summary of what your answer to me ought to be in your presentation.
Okay.
A mention of this is, not necessarily that COVID helped spawn the thing, maybe so, but certainly that you are not just aware of it. It's a significant part of this business model.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
That's right.
Can you hear us, Stanley? We can't hear him. Wow.
Can you type fast in the chat window?
Oh, man.
Hey, John, I've got to sign off right at 1. I've got a phone call coming in at 1.
Okay.
I'm happy to.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so do we. So do I. Yeah.
I am. Well.
Are you raising capital? Yeah.
No. No. Thank you.
So Stanley has put a couple of notes into the chat.
Okay.
Oh, John.
Okay. Yeah, I see. If so, will you repay your investors? You basically, what he was trying to find out was from that $7.90 per visit, what it was going to be that actual revenue model. How are you going to actually make money past it? And so I think he was just trying to get you to talk a little bit more detail. Okay. What I will do is put you directly in touch with Stan as well. Because I know, and all of the 5 of the cohort, for Stan and Ronnie, thank you both so much for participating today. It was a hybrid session. I appreciate you being willing to be flexible like this on the fly. And I think our cohort got a lot out of it. So we'll be following up
in
a minute.
Appreciate it.
And I hope both of you have a great Thanksgiving weekend.
Very good. Everybody have
Thank you.
Thanksgiving. See you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You got it. All right, Mohammed, you take care, brother.
See you.
Thank you, everybody. All right. Take care.